Picture this. A young Lisa Marie Presley, no more than 8 years old, standing backstage at one of her father's concerts. She's watching thousands of people weep openly as Elvis performs, their tears flowing like rivers of emotion. Confused and curious, she tugs on her father's rhinestone-studded jumpsuit and asks the question that would forever change how she understood not just her father's gift, but the very essence of human connection. What Elvis told her that night wasn't just an answer. It was a life philosophy that would guide her through decades of her own musical journey and personal struggles. The year was 1976, and backstage at the International Hotel in Las Vegas, the air was thick with anticipation and the lingering scent of Elvis's cologne. Lisa Marie had been watching from the wings, as she often did when visiting her father during his legendary residency. But tonight was different. Tonight, she noticed something that puzzled her young mind as Elvis moved through his setlist, transitioning from the powerful opening of C.C. Rider to the tender vulnerability of love. Me tender, Lisa Marie observed something extraordinary happening in the audience. Grown men were weeping openly. Women were clutching their hearts, as if physically moved by each note. Teenagers were crying, as though their hearts were breaking and mending simultaneously with each lyric. "Daddy," she whispered when Elvis came. Off stage for a costume change, her small voice cutting through the chaos of assistants and band members preparing for the second set. "Why are all those people crying? Are you making them sad?" Elvis paused, his hands stilling on the towel he was using to wipe the sweat from his brow. In that moment, surrounded by the controlled chaos of his world, he looked down at his daughter and saw not just curiosity, but a genuine desire to understand something profound about human nature. He knelt down to her level, his eyes, those famous blue eyes that had captivated millions, focusing entirely on her. "Come here, baby girl," he said softly, pulling her aside from the bustling activity. "Let me tell you something that took me years to understand." The backstage area seemed to quiet around them, as if the universe itself was preparing to witness a father passing wisdom to his daughter. Elvis's voice, usually commanding and powerful enough to reach the back rows of any venue, became gentle and contemplative. "Those tears you see," he began, "they're not tears of sadness. They're tears of recognition." Lisa Marie tilted her head, her young mind trying to grasp the concept. Elvis continued, his voice carrying the weight of years of experience and countless nights of touching souls through his music. When people hear music really hear it, they're not just listening to words and melodies. They're hearing pieces of their own story being told back to them. Elvis sat down on a nearby chair, pulling Lisa Marie closer as the sounds of the audience waiting for his return filtered through the venue walls. He could hear them calling his name, but for this moment, nothing was more important than this conversation with his daughter. "You know how when you look in a mirror, you see yourself?" Elvis asked, brushing a strand of hair from Lisa Marie's face. "Music is like a mirror for people's hearts. When I sing about love, about loss, about hope, about loneliness, I'm not just telling my story. I'm telling their story too." He gestured toward the stage, where thousands of people waited in the darkened arena. Every person out there has loved someone and lost them. They've all felt alone in a crowded room. They've all had dreams that seemed too big, too impossible. When they hear me sing about those feelings, they recognize themselves. Lisa Marie's eyes widened with understanding beginning to dawn. "So they cry because they feel ... understood?" "Exactly. Baby girl?" Elvis's face lit up with pride at his daughter's quick comprehension. "They cry because for 3 minutes or 4 minutes, they don't feel alone in their pain or their joy. They feel like someone else has walked the same path, felt the same feelings." He stood up, beginning to pace as he always did when he was excited about an idea. His movements were graceful despite his size, reminiscent of the way he moved on stage. You see, music isn't about the person singing it. It never was. It's about the person hearing it. I'm just the vessel, the messenger. Elvis paused, looking toward the stage entrance where his band was beginning to take their positions for the second set. When I was starting out, I thought it was all about me, about my voice, my performance. But over the years, I realized that the magic happens in the space between the stage and the audience. It happens when my story meets their story, and they realize they're the same story. The young Lisa Marie processed this, her mind working to understand the profound responsibility her father carried every time he stepped on stage. "But Daddy," she said thoughtfully, "doesn't that make you sad, knowing that everyone is hurting?" Elvis knelt down again, his hands on her small shoulders. "Oh, sweetheart, it's not just about the hurt. People cry at happy songs, too. They cry when they hear 'Can't Help Falling in Love' because they remember their first dance with someone special. They cry during It's Now or Never because it reminds them of chances they took that changed their lives." As the minutes ticked by and the audience's anticipation grew more palpable, Elvis continued his explanation, sensing that this moment would be pivotal in his daughter's understanding of not just his career, but the power of artistic expression itself. "Lisa Marie, I want you to understand something very important," he said, his voice taking on a more serious tone. "What you witnessed out there tonight, that emotional connection, it's not something I take lightly. It's a responsibility." He walked over to the mirror where his costumes hung, fingering the intricate beadwork of his jumpsuit. "Every time I step on that stage, I'm carrying the hopes, dreams, fears, and memories of thousands of people. They don't come to see Elvis Presley the man. They come to experience Elvis Presley, the conduit for their own emotions." Lisa Marie watched, her father's reflection in the mirror, seeing not just the performer the world knew, but the thoughtful man who was her daddy. "Is that scary?" she asked. Elvis turned back to her, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Sometimes, yes, because with that power comes the obligation to be honest. I can't fake what I'm feeling up there. The audience knows immediately if I'm not being authentic. They can sense when someone is just going through the motions versus when someone is truly connecting with the material." He sat back down, his voice becoming more animated as he delved deeper into the philosophy that had guided his career. "That's why I choose songs that mean something to me, even if they're not necessarily the biggest hits or the most commercial. When I sing 'How Great Thou Art,' I'm not performing, I'm worshiping. When I sing 'My Way,' I'm reflecting on my own journey. When I sing love songs, I'm thinking about the people I've loved, including you and your mama." The backstage area was beginning to buzz with increased activity as the intermission neared its end. Elvis's manager appeared in the distance, tapping his watch, but Elvis held up a hand to indicate he needed a few more minutes. "The tears you saw tonight," he continued, "they're sacred, baby girl. They represent trust. Those people trusted me enough to be vulnerable, to let their guard down, to feel deeply in a public space. That's not something I ever want to take for granted." Lisa Marie nodded solemnly, beginning to understand the weight of the gift her father possessed and the responsibility that came with it. As the time for Elvis's return to the stage approached, he could see the wheels turning in his daughter's mind. She was processing not just his words, but observing the controlled chaos around them, the band members tuning their instruments, the costume assistants making final adjustments, the security team coordinating the second set logistics. "Daddy," Lisa Marie said thoughtfully, "will I make people cry someday too?" Elvis's expression softened, and he pulled her close. "Maybe, baby girl, but not because you're my daughter, and not because you have my name. If you choose to make music someday, you'll make people cry because you'll have learned what I'm trying to teach you tonight, that music is about serving others, not serving yourself. He gestured toward his guitar, which was leaning against a nearby amplifier. This instrument, my voice, this stage, they're all just tools. The real magic happens when you use those tools to help other people understand their own hearts better. When you can take the universal human experience as love, loss, hope, fear, joy, and present them in a way that makes people feel less alone. The 5-minute warning was called, and Elvis began his final preparations. But he continued talking, wanting to complete this important lesson. The people who will remember this show won't necessarily remember every song I sang or every move I made. They'll remember how they felt. They'll remember the moment when a particular lyric hit them just right, or when a melody transported them back to a significant moment in their lives. Lisa Marie watched as her father transformed before her eyes. The gentle, philosophical man became the confident performer the world expected to see. But now she understood that this wasn't a contradiction. It was all part of the same truth he'd been explaining to her. "The crying you witnessed tonight," Elvis said, adjusting his collar and checking his appearance one final time. "It's the sound of hearts opening. It's the sound of people allowing themselves to feel deeply, maybe for the first time in months. Or years. That's why I do this, sweetheart. Not for the fame or the money or the accolades, but for those moments when I can help someone access a part of themselves they might have forgotten existed." As he prepared to take the stage for the second set, Elvis turned to his daughter one final time. "Remember this conversation, Lisa Marie. Whether you become a performer or not, remember that we all have the power to create moments of connection and understanding with others. Sometimes it's through music. Sometimes it's through a kind word. Sometimes it's just by being genuinely present when someone needs to be heard." The stage manager appeared, indicating it was time. Elvis kissed his daughter on the forehead and whispered, "Now, let's go make some more people cry in the most beautiful way possible." That night in Las Vegas changed everything for Lisa Marie Presley. She had witnessed not just her father's talent, but his profound understanding of human nature and his commitment to using his gift in service of others. The tears she saw in that audience were no longer mysterious. They were evidence of the sacred connection between artist and audience, between one human heart and another. Years later, when Lisa Marie embarked on her own musical journey, she would carry with her the wisdom Elvis shared that night. She understood that true artistry isn't about showcasing talent, it's about creating bridges between souls, helping people feel less alone in their human experience. Ready to discover more profound insights about music, connection, and the power of authentic expression? Subscribe to our newsletter for weekly stories that explore the deeper meaning behind the moments that shaped musical history. Because every great song starts with understanding the human heart.